Hi, I'm Brian, and I love Hallmark Christmas movies.
Hi, I'm also Brian, and I like Hallmark Christmas movies.
I'm not Brian, and I despise Hallmark Christmas movies.
I'm Jonathan. I miss Panda, and I hate Hallmark Hanukkah movies.
And this is the Deck the Hallmark podcast.
The Hallmark, it's his podcast.
Brandon and friends host this podcast. We hope you like this jolly podcast.
Oh my
boy.
gosh.
It's that time of
It's
the
that
year.
time of the year. Everybody just tell your children to go in the other room. Jonathan
That's right.
Shapiro's here, everyone.
If you were in a minivan picking up anyone from any practice, this is not the episode.
We have to get this episode cleared by the CEO of Philo before we post it on their platform. That's how racy this episode gets. Isn't that, Shapiro?
It's gonna be filthy, and I respect the people of South Carolina for putting up with this. I really do.
Thank you.
Yeah, and God bless you for joining us for a fifth straight year, Jonathan.
Gosh, it's been 5 years. This is the longest relationship I've ever had with anyone.
That's fair.
We're proud to be a part of it.
Happy Hanukkah to you and Yorn.
Thank you, and thank you, and Merry Christmas. I hear someone's Savior's about to be born.
That's right. It's right around the corner. The
Could
old
yours
eBay.
too. We'll talk about it after the show. We'll give you the hard
Look forward
pitch.
to it. And by the way, as I say every Easter, sorry.
If you want to see that in live time, you can go to philo.tv/DTH.
Good stuff.
You can find that right on the app. Free 7-day trial. Seeing Jonathan making fun of our Lord and Savior.
It is the
Oh, it was ours first. I know you don't like that about him, but it was one of ours first.
That's right.
it's the final weekend of new movies has come and gone.
That's right.
That means it's the last week of movie reviews for the year for us. It's a little overwhelming. I got to say, I was driving down the road today and I turned to my wife and I said, babe, there's no new movies to watch and I'm sad. And she thought I was doing a bit.
Yeah.
I was not doing a bit. I am legitimately sad at the lack of new holiday movies this weekend.
This 10 days, we get 10 days with no new Hallmark content a year. And it is glorious. It is just the best 10 days. And I mean that with all sincerity.
Dan, a couple things. One, you're too skinny, and if you're sick, I'm sorry, and I'll pray for you, but you're too skinny. Secondly, what crime did you commit that you have to keep watching these movies?
So I will say this, Jonathan, I have transitioned. This is my full-time job now, which I don't know if you know that. Like it is.
You don't have money for food.
That's right. Yeah, I am just scraping
That's why
by.
you're skinny.
Couldn't even make my own latke. Couldn't even make one with the amount of money I have.
And you were always doing that.
Watching, yeah, I'm a big latke from scratch guy. Well, watching the movie is the worst part of my job. It's legit. Like if the worst part of your job was watching movies, Jonathan.
Yeah.
I mean that's a sweet gig, right?
Do you know there's a third guy here who I've never seen before? What's this?
Who, me? Oh, hey.
Brian, really quickly, tell Jonathan 3 things about you and leave out the part of where you don't like Jewish people. And just like
Okay. Yeah, we'll get into that later. So I like to bake fudge. But I don't know if you know this.
Is that what they call that now?
Yeah, we bake fudge. I like to sit next to Christmas
Not
trees.
for me to judge. By the way, let me just tell you, whatever you do in your personal life is your choice, and I respect it. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Bake fudge.
Thank you. And number 3, Fran, what was that one I can't say?
no, we're just gonna
Oh yeah, there's one you
Running
can't
out
say.
of things.
That's right.
Man, Brian is the first. He's not from South Carolina, Jonathan.
right.
Now, he lives here now, but he's from Massachusetts. So he just can't be in the studio this evening, but typically he's in the studio with us. He lives down here now.
Isn't this now? It's ironic that I am in the midst of writing a book that I have to turn into the publisher at the end of January about Abe Lincoln.
Oh, wow.
I'm actually writing a book about Abe Lincoln, and how fitting that the war started in South Carolina.
That's right.
And it was won by guys from Massachusetts with the sort of low slung forehead and lantern jaw that Brian's got there. And it takes a Jew to sort of explain it.
I got to tell you, Jonathan, there's a lot of great information there. If you're writing a book on Abraham Lincoln, as someone who taught college level history for 15 years, he's my favorite character to talk about. I can't wait. I can't wait to read it. And I'm being dead. I can't wait. I'm very excited that you're doing this.
I can't wait for you to buy
it. full price, right? Retail. Great.
I actually will get you a book for full price.
Can I send it to you like marked up?
I would love your notes. It would be great.
Great. Yeah. Good. High school history teacher gave me some notes.
Keeping with the theme of our characters finding pennies on the ground and being all excited about it, I'm going to continue this trope of the cheap Jew who's not going to give you the book for less money.
Got it. Perfect. Right. Great. Thank you.
Jonathan, really quickly, you write television programs from time to time. Do you have anything going on right now that Dan can act like he's excited about? Because that's like a yearly tradition too. It's really fun.
So there's a show that we just I guess the kids say dropped.
Yes.
And it's very fitting because Peacock dropped it like a big sack of poo. So there's been no publicity for it. But if you should stumble on it, it's called The Calling, and it's set in Brooklyn, New York, and that's where I spent the last 6 months. And it's about this sounds like a joke. It's not. It's about an Orthodox Jewish NYPD detective.
That sounds fascinating. Who's in it?
Fascinating. And I tell you, it proves something based on the criticisms we've received. And Mr. Hitler got better reviews in Poland in '38. And I don't know. Maybe people don't like Jews. I don't know.
No, I don't think
that's not been.
If this year's taught us anything, I don't think that's true. It's on the Peacock.
It's on the Peacock. I believe the emphasis is on the cock. And
right.
It's the cock, and it airs constantly. And if you're the 10th viewer, I believe you get a free subscription to Peacock.
And not only that, but you got Barry Levinson in here directing, and that's
Barry Levinson directed. And if you're a fudge baker, there's a whole storyline about that in there.
So. I'm in. No. I'd like to say I'll be number 10, but I'll probably be around 6 or 7. So.
Is Brian supposed to bring humor to this thing? Because...
No. That's where Panda lost everybody. He was too funny, so we're trying to dry it up a little bit.
Too funny. Right. Yeah, it was too. And it was like slapstick. Like it was it was overt. We want to be a really serious, like Mensa member level funny show.
I can say in my 5th year here, now that Panda has left, for the first time I realized which one is Panda and which one is Brand and which one is Dan. I did not know until now.
More than fair. More than fair. We all blend together. Would we like to talk about Hanukkah on Rye?
Sure.
Anybody interested in doing that? I do have a synopsis in case for some reason you didn't watch it on the Philo TV. How dare you? But I do have a synopsis, and then we'll break it down afterwards. Are we ready? Yes. December 18th, 2022 is when it premiered, and it went a little something like this. The movie kicks off at Gilbert's Diner. It's been in the family forever. Molly is next in line to run the company, so she's learning the ropes. She's neck deep in latkes, saw him live. Then we meet Jacob across the country. His family owns, I don't even know if you would call it a diner. Would you call it a diner? I don't know. It's got all the foods, everything you could possibly want under the sun. It is there. And he's kind of wanting to...
I would call it an Applebee's.
An Applebee's.
Yes.
Similar to an Applebee's. And so they're wanting to open one of those across the country in New York City. He's going to move there temporarily and take a look at some places around there to find the perfect spot. He's got a temporary apartment, and wouldn't you know it, Molly also lives in that apartment complex. They meet, they butt heads. And who doesn't love that? Both Molly and Jacob are single, and that worries their families.
Music? Why can't we have klezmer music? Why can't we have some Jewy music? Why can't we have Irving Berlin? Is this a comedy thing? Is this a we run music? What is this? I'm listening
to
a movie, and yet I'm listening to the Nutcracker.
You're right. You're right. You're right.
What is it little effort into it, Bran.
I told him to change the music. He didn't listen.
Dan actually said put something Jewy on, and I said, I said we can't say that, and he said Shapiro will say that, and then here we are.
You're a man named for roughage, and yet you're not anal about the music on this show.
Yeah. Shapiro, I gotta get through this so we can talk about it, okay? Gosh. Both families are worried about the fact that they are single. The grandmas surprised them by telling them that they've hired a matchmaker and they've already found a match for each of them. Apparently, their getting to know you process is very old school. They are given a box with writing supplies, and they are supposed to write back and forth and go from there. It's very intense and also very loose on the rules. Jacob is supposed to write the first letter because he's a man, and he's having a really tough time. So he takes a break, goes for a walk, bumps into Molly, and they accidentally, he makes fun of her diner, doesn't realize that she's, part of the family. And then they bump into each other again at the first menorah light, and they're just bumping into each other all over the place. New York City, classic.
The movie wasn't this long. Are you getting paid by this is endless. This is show up.
Then let me do my job, Shapiro.
I'm sorry.
He writes the first letter and is honest about really not wanting a relationship, and she ends up appreciating that honesty. He ends up coming to Gilbert's for a Hanukkah open mic, which Lisa Loeb shows up for, and she stays. Thank you. A guy comes in and he recognizes Jacob and says, dude, what are you doing in New York? Are you scoping out the competition? Molly hears this and gets really upset. He explains that his family runs Zimmers.
This is not a synopsis. This is a reading of the transcript, for God's sake.
Jonathan?
Sorry.
That's the calling on Peacock.
So she doesn't want, that's why people aren't watching The Calling. They're too busy listening to my synopsis. So she doesn't want to talk to him anymore because he's a liar. But they do unknowingly keep writing letters to one another because of the thing. And one day Jacob sees Molly turning in her letter, and he's like, "Oh no, she's the girl. I'm the boy." They end up hanging out together, and they're having fun when she finds out that he wants to put the Zimmers like a block away from her restaurant. She is mad again, back to square one with these two. Molly is trying to find new ways to bring people into Gilbert's, and Jacob seems invested in helping too because he's just a cool guy. She tells him that there's someone else that she's interested in, and he's like, you should meet him. I know. They set up a time to meet, but when that time comes to meet, his family ends up coming into town, and they're less than thrilled to hear that he's trying to pull out of the deal with the place that he found. Grandma, not happy, tells the story basically about her mom, his great, you get it, and a story that he had never heard before in his life about why they actually want to do a restaurant in New York City. So now he's like, well, we got to do the Zimmers now.
Let's have a party, we'll all dance the chorus.
So
have around the table, give you green.
While Molly is waiting for the late Jacob, she's looking at pictures of events at Gilbert's and sees how happy she and Jacob are together. So she decides to blow off the dinner with the letter guy so that she can be with Jacob. He tells her that they're opening Zimmers, and she's like, okay, we'll make it work. But then he tells her that he's also the letter guy. And she's like, very mad. You lied again. You didn't tell me who you were. Gives him back his lucky penny. The nerve. Both grandmas go to get a refund for the matchmaking service. They end up meeting each other and challenging each other to a latke competition. Winner gets bragging rights at the best latke in New York City. There's a problem, though. The latkes taste exactly the same. And how can that possibly be? Because their grandmas met each other on the ship.
Whoa.
I know.
Sister, they're committing the worst sin. It's incest.
I don't think they're not related, are they?
But when it happened, I said, if these two are cousins, so help me.
They're just friends.
Just friends.
Yeah. By the way, if you're an Ashkenazi Jew, as I am, and as is my wife, the phone book of birth defects that you may have when you have kids is very worrying. If you're a Gentile like you people, it comes in a pamphlet.
I just am excited that Brand's going to follow this.
I'm almost done. I swear.
I swear to God.
Jacob and Molly make up and they kiss and the family cheers. The family talk about opening a diner together, and Jacob and Molly kiss some more as the matchmaker looks right in the camera and says, "I still got it," which I didn't really know was up for debate, but apparently it was. Cut to a picture of Jacob and Molly. They're in front of the new restaurant. They did it. And that, my friends, was Hanukkah on Rye.
We did it.
I seriously want to die. I was going to kill myself with the scissors. But
Well, good news, Jonathan. We've got a break real quick, and we'll see what you do during that break. We'll be back here on Deck the Hallmark. We're back, everybody. We're talking about Hanukkah on Rye, a lovely story. Let's break it down with 4 segments. We'll start with the hot take. And Brian, who's been waiting patiently for this moment, for the big show to finally arrive, where you can share your scalding hot take of what you thought about Hanukkah on Rye. Brian, don't disappoint, and go.
Okay. So this movie was special and unique for a lot of reasons. And one of them that really stood out to me is that it featured a matchmaking technique that could revolutionize the game, I'd say. Now, the movie didn't explain like the order of things, but from what I gather, she's a matchmaker who combs through the Ellis Island archives, cross-references like Ancestry.com or one of these services. She probably subscribes to all of them, even Peacock, and finds 2 single people at the end of a family tree and sets them up, because she knows the whole family is fed up with these 2 being single, and it's going to work no problem. And so I think she's doing this, and you just keep this rolling, you'll always have 100% success rate. The music in this I thought was really good. Like, I noticed the music when they were writing letters to each other. I was like, this music's beautiful. And then I realized throughout the whole movie, the music's great. And the food, Dan, I'll let you talk about how great the food looked.
The food looked
phenomenal, outstanding.
Especially
after just eating at Harold's in New Jersey.
Yeah.
And seeing the portions, how good the food looks. Seeing this food, it was like I could taste it. And it was torture. And I loved watching that. Overall, like, and even actually, Jonathan, I'm glad we have you here because I need you to settle a bet for me. I recently had a Sufgan Iyot. There it is.
I'm sorry.
A jelly donut, right? And Dan and Bran almost threw me out of the car when I said I was going to try that. And that's anti-Semitic, right?
Were they concerned that the jelly would get on the white robes, or that they
It's a both and.
Yeah, there was a lot of concern. That was probably the primary one.
I don't remember us getting mad at you.
I think Brian made up a whole story.
You guys, we were in your truck. We were in your truck. We were deciding on donuts. And
you're not going to eat a jelly donut in my truck.
No.
Yeah.
It was Jen Bliss, our double decker, brought them to Christmas Con, and I said, I'm going to get the jelly donut. And you guys are both just like puking out the window at this idea.
Oh, of those. Yeah. That's not one of, no, that's not the same thing.
So I was glad to see that in the movie, and that I had just tried one of those donuts. It was fresh in my mind. And so I don't like all the lying that went on, but I kind of understood what he had to do to get this movie to the end. But I do have to say I had a really good time. And this does score a 0 in my rating system for real Christmassy.
Sure.
It makes up for it in all the great traditions and information and music.
So for real Hanukkah,
I was about to say,
Hanukkah,
if your rating system is about Christmassy and you watch a Hanukkah movie, Brian,
tough.
maybe the rating system is maybe there's some systemic injustice there.
I don't know if it's affirmative action to maybe use a Hanukkah scale for the Hanukkah movies, but I will say, Brian, you're the best thing on this show by a lot. I'll tell you why. You're not funny, but
of course.
You seem to have just an everyman. You're like you're everyman. You are just an average Joe, and I found it comforting to just hear you go on and on.
Oh, thank you.
More comforting than me going on and on, I can tell you that.
Unfortunately, that's where
Jonathan,
we are.
What did you think about Hanukkah on Rye?
I thought this was the worst movie I ever saw, and I just a couple of thoughts. One, it can't be a deli if they serve pork. So I don't know what they're doing in Los Angeles with the Zimmer deal. Secondly, the guy who runs the concierge in the apartment,
Thomas, I believe.
I don't believe he had a lower body. And I salute Hallmark for hiring that guy. There was a woman in this movie that has given me nightmares, and it's not because she appears to be the crypt keeper, but because she was 175 years old. And I don't think they told her she was actually being filmed. And I'm talking, of course, about the Zimmer grandmother, who was horrible. The food looked bad. The portions were small. The prices were high.
The prices were high. Where were the prices, Jonathan?
He just knows.
And I just feel like, and this will sound weird because I'm not a Jew for Jesus, but I'm not necessarily against Jesus. If all the movies in the world were going to be like this, if Jesus hadn't come, then I'm glad Jesus came. Because if these were going to be what all the movies were going to be,
Well said.
I don't even know how to.
Well said.
I have one follow-up question, Jonathan. Last year you reviewed 8 Gifts of Hanukkah,
right?
Which you called a masterpiece and maybe the best movie you've ever seen.
It was the greatest movie I ever saw. That was a great movie. Now, that was the Citizen Kane Hanukkah movies. That was great.
So
it was charming. It was funny, and it sent the message that Jews are just a little better.
Yeah.
I just can't imagine a world where the difference in these two movies is that, like the first 2 Hanukkah movies we got, Holiday Date and Double Holiday, I think are just, and you're with me on this, you've reviewed both of them, or at least one of, are awful, terrible movies. And then 8 Gifts of Hanukkah, I was like, all right, we're not treating everyone like they're idiots where we have to explain Hanukkah to everyone. And 8 Gifts of Hanukkah was like a solid entry. And I think this was closer to that than it was those first 2. But
wrong.
Yeah, fair, clearly.
No, you're terribly wrong. And once again, and we've talked about this before, we don't have to go over this again, but your visceral, furious hatred of Jews.
Can't air it, Brand. I don't know what we're gonna do.
It's already aired. There's nothing we can do.
Oh my gosh. Listen, this is a movie.
I didn't give mine yet.
Oh, go ahead.
I really liked it.
Yeah, talk more, Brand.
Fine. I really liked it. Shortest hot take in the history of hot takes from Brand. I really liked it.
What did you like? What did you like about it?
Overall vibes, and I also love Jeremy Jordan.
Yeah.
He's in my top 5 Hallmark guys right now. I just love him. The fact that we didn't get to hear Jeremy Jordan sing is a travesty upon travesties, and I will be taking it to Congress. I don't know how that works, but the
guy can sing.
The guy can sing.
Did it bother you that he apparently has no neck and no waist?
You're talking about who?
He looks as if he had been compressed in some way.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, nope. Didn't bother me at all. I really liked him. Dan?
So this is a movie that borrows liberally from the premise of You've Got Mail and Shop Around the Corner and that long-standing tradition of films where we're sending each other letters or emails or what have you. And it doesn't stoop to the level of trying to educate us on Hanukkah, which is great. It feels like it's its own movie that's representing well. And then the 2 leads, I thought did a good job. I thought Yael Grobglas was really good, and I thought Jeremy Jordan was really good. Is it The best movie of the year? No. I guess I'm just kind of in awe. I just thought Jonathan was going to really like this one. I'm surprised at the take we're getting from Jonathan. Whereas for me, like if you're going to make a You've Got Mail, Shop Around the Corner, knockoff, to do it in this way, you had to suspend your disbelief, 16 different ways.
Can I just take this to the tape really quick? Because I do think there's a chance that this might have something to do with it, Jonathan. Last year, you said that who's the lead in last year's movie?
What was her name?
Was the most beautiful Jew you've ever seen, I believe.
I prefaced that by saying, other than my beloved wife.
Of course.
Inbar Lavi.
Of course.
Yeah.
Could it have been that you were a little bit taken aback while watching that movie?
You know what? I'm suddenly realizing that everything I said was wrong. Thanks, Frank. Let me go back. I loved it. It was great. I thought the food looked terrific. I thought that scene where she explains how to put cream cheese after the capers and the salmon was charming. I think the fact that he looks like the little Martian with the hairbrush on his head was great. And I thought that the Joseph Goebbels stereotypical Jews at the corner eating the blintzes every 5 minutes was wonderful. And sign me up.
And you mentioned the prices were too high. Do you still feel that way, or
I feel the prices were fair? I think that everything about the movie was fair, and I think that doggone it, it was great.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Wow.
It's time for all the feels. It's the part of the show where we talk about what gave us those feels in this movie. Brian, anything give you feels?
I have two real quick ones. In my refrigerator, I have a rack on the door that holds cans, like of seltzer water. Molly had 2 rows of can holders. I only have one. So I was jealous of the inside of her refrigerator door. But thank you. My real feel was that there was a scene where before they had the open mic.
He's junior varsity. What, you giving him a hard time? He wasn't the first choice. God almighty, that's not Christian of you. Christian would be to say, we love you. You know what? We love you.
We love you, Brian. We love you, buddy.
You're whatever you got going that's not good, and you're the weak, and you're poor, and you're on the bottom, but you'll be at the top. We love you. That's how Christian should treat Brian.
Thank you. Finally, somebody says it. Stop saying it for myself. Stop calling me weak and poor, Dan. So my real feel was the scene where I think it was right before the open mic where everybody gathered at the deli and they were all reciting, they were praying and what have you, and it was all generations of people, and it looked like really comfortable and like a fun time for everybody who was there, and so I got some feels from that.
Jonathan, now that you've come around and you like the movie, did you have any feels?
I love when they were walking down that street in Toronto, pretending it was the east side of New York, to save the $150 on the location fee, because I assume you run the production and you know how they are. And she started talking about the tenement history and how the apartments were small and loud, and I was thinking, gosh, in the whole history of the Jewish people for 5,000 years. Small apartments was not the worst thing we had to deal with. So I got feels for that. And I also thought the fact that Lisa Loeb has not aged. She came on the scene at 12 and she's still 12. And I want to know if she's the undead.
Wow.
Yeah, she really looks the exact same.
She stayed.
Exactly.
Yeah, she stayed. That's exactly right.
Exactly right. So there was when they're about to do the Latka competition, they show a graphic, a promotional graphic for it that is made to look like a boxing pay-per-view promotional image, and I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. The fact that it was only up on screen for a split second was a travesty. Somebody spent a lot of time working on that, and it turned out wonderful. So kudos to whoever did that. I'm happy it made it to the final airing because it made me very happy. I got a good kick out of that. Dan?
You know what my nightmare is? It's a little thing I like to call original song karaoke. This is where we have an open mic, and people come up and they don't go, "Hey, I want to sing the Backstreet Boys." They say, "I wrote a song, and you're going to listen to it because you have to."
That is typically what open mic is.
I just was I wanted to fast forward. I couldn't believe I would never.
Licensing.
Yeah, I did. But if I was in a bar and they started that, I would be out.
The fact that you've never been to a singer-songwriter open mic astounds no one.
That's right, and you probably are all about it.
I don't hate it.
You dabble.
I don't hate it. I don't love it. Give me karaoke over.
Yeah.
open mic
You
night.
got a little bass
Gosh, I
line
love
there.
karaoke because you never know. You never know what's going to happen with karaoke.
That's right.
It's beautiful. It's wonderful. Let's take one more quick break. We'll come back with the Wait, What, and the What, the Hallmark here on Take the Hallmark. I'm sorry I didn't switch out the transitional music there, Shapiro. That's on me, buddy. I'll work on it for next year.
I'm talking to my lawyer again.
It's fair. More than fair.
Let's get to the Wait, What. Let's talk about what?
I'm going to get those socks in the settlement.
Oh,
okay, yeah.
It has a hole in the sole, so
Exactly.
Do you?
Fair. Let's talk about Wait, What. Let's start with you, Brian. Brian, while you were watching this, what made you go, wait, what?
Just three quick ones, really. And it was very early on. One of the ladies, when they were sitting at the counter of the deli, one of the ladies was punching numbers. And she said about their lot, because we either break even or we make a profit. And this year, we're a little farther from even than we'd like to be. And I interpreted that as they don't want to make a profit. Did I miss?
No, the way I understood it was we're going to break even at all costs. So like they're talking about giving away latkes or doing some sort of promotional thing. And they say, hey, we either break even or we make a profit, and we're too far away from breaking even. So I think they were worried about their latke like allotment, so to speak.
We all know what's going on. They're running a tax evasion and they're preparing to burn the place down for insurance. Okay,
that makes sense. That makes sense.
We all know what's going on. Our latke margin is a little off this year. Come on, it was Jewish lightning. They're going to burn the whole place down for the insurance.
That clears it right up. So that was a silly question. He had just, when he first arrived at the apartment, he had his meet cute there. They ran into each other. He was checking the mailbox at a place he's renting. So I get he's probably there for a little while. Maybe he's going to get mail.
It's the first day he's in town.
First day. It's like immediately he shows up and he's got mail in there. And during the original song competition, it looks like they had just put out a grease fire in the kitchen, because every time they showed the restaurant, it was so smoky and hazy, and it was obviously from candles and whatnot, but it just looked very dangerous and made my lungs burn just watching. That was it.
Fair enough. Jonathan, what you waiting and what you wanting?
The other thing I noticed, Brian's hair is fantastic. Best hair.
Yeah, it's good hair. It's good hair.
Is that the product in your hair, is that Valvoline? Because
it's some kind of mousse, actually. I'm not sure if it's
the Racer's Edge.
It might be. It might be.
I was confused. Okay, stop touching yourself.
Why?
Okay, well now this is
for those listening. He was touching his hair on top of his head.
This is why you got to go to philo.tv/DTH.
Go ahead, Shapiro.
Thanks. I found it odd that the man, the compressed man, is Jewish, and his family runs a deli, and he had never heard of Fiddler on the Roof.
Yeah. So
that struck me as odd.
You're going to love this, Jonathan. Brandon and I missed in an episode years ago on the pod. There was an overt Fiddler on the Roof joke in a movie, and Brandon and I missed it. Neither of us knew the joke.
Right, because you're two yokels from South Carolina deliverance canoe paddlers.
That's
who
what
don't know
I'm.
your ass from Shinola. Right. You don't know Fiddler on the Roof. It'd be weird if you
That's
knew
right.
But he's
That's
a
what I was.
Jewish guy.
That's
who
right.
runs Kelly.
Yes. That's what I was trying to tell people, but we got a lot of messages about how we should know Fiddler on the Roof. And, it is pretty famous. The fact that this guy has never seen Fiddler on the Roof was a bit shocking. That was something.
Yeah, he'd heard of it, but never seen it.
That's right.
One of our people said, which is a little bit like saying, no, I heard of the crucifixion, but I didn't see it. It just seems like a fraud. Okay.
Did you just compare the crucifixion of Jesus to Fiddler on the Roof?
That's a new one. That's a new one even for John.
No, and let me tell you why. The crucifixion never ran on Broadway for over 4 years or won Tony for Zero Mostel. So that's one. Secondly, what I said, rubbish, was that his claim that he never heard about it is a little bit like me saying, well, I wasn't personally responsible for what happened to Jesus. And we both know that's not true.
Fair. Anything else?
No, not really. Except I have to say, I thought some of the pictures of the food actually made me want to never eat again anything.
You didn't think the food looked good, Jonathan?
The stuffed cabbage, the stuffed cabbage looked like something. It looked like 4 inches of my colonoscopy last time. And I'm going to tell you that if you're from South Carolina and now you don't want to go to New York because you don't want to eat that food, it doesn't look like that. Got it.
Man, the pastrami and corned beef they showed looked great to me.
Like ham. That was my other complaint.
It was ham?
I think it was ham. It's cheaper. Wow. It shoots better.
Wow.
And they showed it at the Zimmers on a nice bed of Eucharist wafers.
At the Zimmers.
At the Zimmers.
He goes to Zimmers so often in LA. He calls it the Zimmers. He's like, I'm going down to the Zimmers.
Going down to the Zimmers to watch the peacock.
Going down to the Zimmers. Does anybody want any pork?
Right. I have a few. At the beginning of this movie, her mom hands her a swan in tinfoil, which she brings back to her place, and she puts it in her refrigerator that is filled to the brim with swans with tinfoil. And why? Why is she holding on to these? I know it was for the funny ha-has, but at some point,
you got to throw it out.
You just throw them straight to the trash,
you gotta
right?
Throw it out.
You got to throw it out. What are we trying to do?
Yeah, that's just a lot of waste.
It's just a lot of waste. It's a lot of tinfoil as well. Once again, I will sing it from the mountaintops. Jeremy Jordan not singing at open mic night is a travesty.
Yeah, and what
he said, he wrote an original song.
I don't know what else
when he was 12, he didn't want to bust that bad boy out.
Yeah, and the fact is, Mix Up in the Mediterranean, he didn't sing. The one, was it Holly? And maybe I'm not. There's one other one he's in. He didn't sing.
He hasn't sung in any of them.
He hasn't sung in any of his Hallmark movies. And then
maybe,
you're like,
maybe it costs more.
Mike night.
Schindler's List.
Maybe it costs more. Maybe it costs more.
Yeah. What does that mean? That we wouldn't pay for it is what you're saying.
That's tough.
No.
It's tough. Why would you say that, Brain? If it wasn't what was in your heart, why would you say it?
All I'm saying is, if you are a Broadway star, you should ask for more to sing than act in a movie. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that.
I mean, they did have a professional singer sing in the movie. They might have blown the budget there.
Yeah, that was my thing. But it was why? Why do that? Why do that? Why bring her in when you have a Broadway singer right wild. There?
Yeah. What was he on in Broadway? What was he in?
A little of this, a little of that.
He was in 5 More Years was the thing that he did.
That's actually a wonderful and problematic in terms of the treatment of the Jewish character musical.
Yeah, and he did the movie with Anna Kendrick as well.
That's where I saw him.
Yeah.
He was compressed in that too, I believe.
Yep. Cannot confirm or deny compression.
So the person who won Lisa, she wins free latkes for the rest of the year, was my understanding, for winning the night.
Yes.
Which they'd give her
All at once.
Which
I can't even imagine.
But she said she was gonna share it. She said she was going to share it with the kids, although it was never clear who's.
How many kids is that?
Can
I
you
would not.
imagine in,
Is this
June cracking open those latkes?
is this like a lottery situation? You can get it all at once, lump sum, or you can take it over for the next week and a half. I don't know. I was baffled by that. And last but not least, they had a donut making class.
But they did not make.
They
any
did
donuts.
not make a single donut. That's a decorating class. I was so bummed. I was like, oh, they're going to bring the kids back there. They're going to do some oil. It's going to splatter everywhere. It's going to be fun. No, not at all. Not at all.
It was disappointing.
Very disappointing. Dan?
Is this the only street on the Lower East Side? has the Lower East Side of New York been, speaking of compression, compressed into one street with one possible building for lease? Like, I feel like in all of your like travels, you could maybe go to, I don't know, another street on the Lower East Side and find a place to put your diner or deli there.
Your Zimmers.
The Zimmers. When
whatever
you put the
it
Zimmers
is.
in. That's right. I don't have a lot of experience with the food combination of bagels, lox, capers, and I'll admit that up front. But literally, the ingredients in her bagel and his bagel are the exact same, aside from a little bit of lemon juice. And he looks at her bagel like it is utter garbage.
It's the way they're
they're the same ingredients aside from a little bit of lemon juice. And he looks at it like he would not eat it if you paid him. Why?
I think the humor, which I believe is what they were going for, and which you might want to develop, for yourself, was the order and the style in which they dressed their bagels.
Yes,
so,
of course. And we were counting on Brian. We're counting on Brian for the humor. So,
Mr. used to be the principal. Mr. This is why the South Carolina schools are the way they are. I'm just saying.
More than fair. I will tell you when I would be out on this is when you tell me I have to write a full-length letter with a pen. That is just absurd. It's 2022 for a reason, gang. Like, we don't need to get pen and paper involved here. We don't need it. We never did. Not in this year of our Lord 2022. Let's skip that right away.
As Brian holds up his pen and paper.
Yeah, of course. That checks out.
Oh wait, and he's written something. I'm being held hostage.
That's right. Yeah. Jonathan wrote all my jokes. Wow. Interesting.
Jonathan wrote all my
this Gilbert's Deli, the big complaint that the daughter has is that all of the customers are old. And true to form, when we look at the deli, everyone in there's old. And she's like, you guys don't even know how to email. You don't even know how to do this stuff. We got to get the young crowd in. And her way to get the young crowd in is a nighttime flyer for a donut making contest. Or donut making class. That is it. She's like, what will bring the kids in is if we go out in the black of night and we hand out flyers to come in tonight and make a donut.
Yeah, and I will say, I think what most people think of when they think of bringing the kids in to save a company is paying customers, not toddlers.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
To each their own. To each their own.
And I will say this: those parents, they may not have known a PDF from a JPEG, but their color printer is on point. They have the best color printer in the Lower East Side. They made those flyers in an hour, printed and everything.
Yeah.
That's impressive. I mean, maybe expand your technological palette a bit to include not a color printer, because your color printer is killing the game right now. It's killing it.
Gosh, love a color printer.
The last one that I have, I actually will save. I'll save it for the.
He's deferring. Guys, it's time for What the Hallmark. It is where we talk about any questions that we had that we're still pondering over, might think about tonight as we head off to slumber. Brian, what are you still wondering about?
So something that kept coming up to me was, how did the messenger know when the letter was ready to be picked up? Because he seemed to show up like as the ink was drying, as they were dropping it off downstairs. And so I know there's an easy answer, which is they let him know and he comes and gets it, but he just seemed to be like too on time. So I want to know how that part of the system works.
Great, Brian. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jonathan.
I want to know how the legal department let them write a whole movie about the Nuremberg laws and why it's a good way to use to put people together as a matchmaker. I found that odd. I mean, I find the association of Joseph Goebbels and the Nuremberg laws to be offensive, and I thought there was a strange decision of Hallmark to base a movie on it. That being said, I now realize that I enjoyed it and that it was a great movie.
Attaboy.
So I'm a little concerned when they do have kids, the genetic makeup. I think there was a close kinship there that ought to give us all pause. And I say that with sensitivity because I'm talking to two guys from South Carolina. There can be some really bad things that happen when we get a little too close to people who we're related to. Finally, I just want to say shout out to Panda, who I really miss.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize how much I missed him until the last 4.5 hours of this particular episode.
Yeah. Can I also get a shout out for being the Christian from South Carolina who told his one Jewish friend that he needs to like the one Hallmark Jewish movie because it's what we have. It's what we have at our disposal. So just be happy that you have one.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Thank you. My what the Hallmark it has to be the matchmaker.
Yeah.
Is she real? Is she an angel? What's her deal? Why'd she look right at the camera? But also, why does she need an office? These are all questions that I have and all questions that I will never get answered. Dan?
Yeah. So I actually thought a lot of the food looked really good.
No.
Apparently I was wrong.
You were wrong.
In that
Jonathan was wrong about the movie. You were wrong about the food.
You're hungry.
Yeah.
I'm always hungry. But I will
it.
say this. I thought all the food looked good except for one dish. What happened with the French fries?
Those were big old boys.
What were those? Those were fork and knife potatoes.
Those were like
they weren't ever French fries. There's just not a world. And I just all the food I felt like they handled expertly, and I clearly was wrong there. But when it came time for the French fries, they just threw out a plate of something that wasn't French fries. And I can't believe wherever they were filming, they couldn't get their hands on French fries, which would be the easiest thing in my opinion. To get
the careful viewer will note that what you were observing there were Christian babies that had been sacrificed during a ritual that generally precedes a well poisoning. And I thought, good for them.
I never know what you're talking about.
Wow.
I never know. I just let you do you. Speaking of you doing you,
Shapiro, one Jewish friend. Huh.
That's unbelievable.
You sure know he's Jewish, don't you? And you introduce him. Hey, he's my Jewish friend. Everybody meet my Jewish friend. Come tax time. Hey, Jewish friend. Any chance you could look this over before I file?
I actually hadn't thought of that, but we have had some tax problems, so I will call you. Jonathan, so if I go on Peacock and I search for The Calling, will it pop up? Do I need to have a special code?
I don't think it will.
Okay.
But if you keep trying, you'll find it. It's a very good show, and I'm very proud of it. And you know what? America doesn't want to be entertained by me. Good luck. Go ahead. Go watch something else. I don't care.
That's why you're writing a book on Lincoln.
That's right.
Do we know the title of the Lincoln book yet, Jonathan?
It's the title, and this is tongue in cheek, but the title of the Lincoln book is How to Be Abe Lincoln.
Okay.
All right, great.
All right.
I like that.
Reconsideration, if you will.
Interesting.
Great. I love it. All right, Shapiro. Well, we'll talk to you in a year. We love you, buddy.
And
may we be the first. Go ahead.
We've all had a lot of laughs. I've said some offensive things, and of course, I meant most of them. But I have loved for 5 years you guys in this show, and you know that the only reason that I was lucky enough to be on here is because my beautiful daughter and I were driving from Indiana University to some place, and she said, "I have found the greatest podcast ever." So you guys have become a family tradition for us. And when I pray, and I do pray, you are on my list. And I actually love you guys. So thank you very much.
God bless you, Jonathan Shapiro.
Thank you, brother.
Seriously,
But
man.
you're going to have to take Panda out and put Brian in.
That's right. And that's going to be tough.
I know.
And somebody else for Brian, because I can't do this again.
I understand.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm glad we tried.
That's right.
Yeah.
Until next year, maybe we'll be the first to wish you a happy
Happy
Hanukkah.
Hanukkah.
We did it.
Homework is that